Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 13th Feb. There are 17 news items that we have picked up from the Hindu newspaper. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, Home Ministry's website hacked. So this is now the Home Ministry's website which has been hacked, though the authorities did not accept this. The website has been blocked now by the National Informatics Center, which regulates and manages all the websites of the government. So the Economic Offences Wing of the Delhi Police has initiated an inquiry after a complaint has been registered by the ministry with the Delhi Police. So earlier too, in January 2017, last month, we had the official website of NSG, National Security Guard, which was defaced and indecent messages were put on it against the Prime Minister, and anti-national content also came up. So here Pakistani affiliated operatives were suspected behind this. So here again investigation in this Home Ministry's website hacking will be undertaken now. So the number of cases of such hacking have increased a lot. So there have been more than 700 websites of various central and state government departments which have been hacked in the past 4 years. So there have been many arrests also for these cyber crimes. Then the next news item is South Kashmir seeds after 7 die in Kulgam encounter. So in Kulgam in Jammu and Kashmir, 70 kilometers from Srinagar, 7 people including 4 militants and 2 soldiers were killed. A civilian also lost his life in this. So there have been, post this encounter, there have been clashes and 15 civilians have been hospitalized, 12 are with bullet injuries. So these 2 militants who have been amongst the 4, 2 militants have been associated with Hizbul Mujahideen and other 2 with Lashkar-e-Toiba. So they were encountered by the forces here. Then the next news item is single point military advisor soon. So this is a question, means we are contemplating, because earlier we have also discussed an article which spoke about a single point military advisor. This was 9th Feb. Editorial video will have the details of this discussion of that article too. So this is regarding a permanent chairman for Chief of Staff Committee. So presently the Chief of Staff Committee, COSC, this comprises of chiefs of all 3, Army, Navy and Air Force, and there is the Integrated Defense Staff Chief also, which is member of this. So that is a non-voting member. So this is the composition of Chief of Staff Committee, and the chairman of this is the senior most member amongst these. Also, scientific advisor to the Minister of Defense is invited whenever needed. So this Chief of Staff Committee does not have a permanent chairman as such. So this is only a the designation given to the senior most member. So now there is discussion on there should be a permanent chairman for the Chief of Staff Committee. Also an alternative would be that there should be a Chief of Defense Staff. So with specific functions as such, because integration of all 3 forces is not there. Each one of them advises the government. So this the single point military advisor is key to the integration and functioning of all these forces in tandem. So that is why this proposal has been recommended, and government is looking into how this single point military advisor should be appointed. Within a year, some provision would be made so that synergy of these services, they function together, is possible. So they say there is consensus on this, that permanent chairman of Chief of Staff Committee should be there. So this will be a 4-star officer. But then his ceremonial post should be ended. He should not be just like this present senior most member who is just a ceremonial chairman. But there should be a clear-cut role and authority for the chief as such. And there are still discussions that whether this new post, Chief of Defense Staff, should be established, which would be a 5-star functionally. So this is regarding this. No decision has been taken, but it will be taken soon for a single point military advisor. Also another proposal which is there is to create theatre commands. So this will be for greater interoperability between the services. So how all of them can function together. So there should be theatre commands. What does this mean is that integration of all the assets, air, land and sea assets, so that they can all function under one operational entity should be possible. So this is called theatre commands, which will be there. So like all being directed, guided as such. So that is called theatre command. So this will improve efficiency and optimum resource utilization. Then the next news item is NGT asks about method for checking fuel adulteration. So National Green Tribunal has directed the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas to tell them the methodology which is used to check adulteration of fuel. So this has been on a complaint which has been filed by a Delhi resident on the inspection of fuel quality at petrol pumps in the country. So because there is acute air pollution too, so what quality of fuel is there which is provided at petrol pumps will also play a key role on how air pollution is resulted in because of these fuel emissions. So the quality of fuel has to be regulated. So this checking adulteration methodology has been demanded by NGT. It has been the case that several laboratories across the country said they did not have the facilities to test impurities in petrol and diesel. So when these laboratories don't have the facilities, then how is the Ministry of Petroleum checking adulteration is the question right now. Also, NGT has set up a committee which is comprising of officials from Central Pollution Control Board, Ministry of Petroleum, and even State Pollution Control Boards. They will conduct an inspection on 10 petrol pumps across Delhi NCR and analyze their samples, that how is the adulteration levels in them. Then the next news item is government has no objection to colonies for Kashmiri Pandits. So this was a response which has given by Union Minister there in Jammu and Kashmir. So he has said that the rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits in the Kashmir Valley can take place and government fully supports this. So he says that the central government has no objection to setting up a homeland, a township or colony for the rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits in the valley. So there was an exodus of Kashmiri Pandits from Kashmir Valley in 1989-90. So this was the time when persecution, genocide and ethnic cleansing is claimed by them, which resulted in the Kashmiri Pandits leaving this region. So now they want to go back and claim their region, homeland, Kashmir Valley. So here in 1991, next year itself, there was a Margdarshan resolution which was passed by them. So in this, they said that we want a free and full flow of Indian constitution in this territory which we will be residing in. So there's a separate territory should be carved out of Kashmir for Kashmiri Pandits. So there it should be like a union territory under the central government, not part of Jammu and Kashmir. So that is what they are demanding, and this Union Minister Jitendra Singh is saying that government would support them. They have no objection on whatever be their demands. They have to clearly state out their demands. So this is regarding 1991 Margdarshan resolution, which has again been reiterated by these Kashmiri Pandits. There are around 7 lakh Kashmiri Pandits who want union territory status here in Kashmir Valley. Then the next news item is multi-role chopper model to be unveiled at Aero India Expo. So this is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited Hall, which has plans to manufacture India's first indigenous multi-role helicopter. So we have seen about HAL Tejas. Tejas has been rejected by the Navy. So we have been seeing how the delay in the entire project has resulted in it not being suitable for the forces. So now in this helicopter case, a multi-role helicopter will be developed by HAL, but then it would be on a requirement basis, and presently a mock-up, means a plan would be put forth in this Aero India Expo, which is there in Bengaluru. So this will be a twin engine helicopter which will have 10-ton carrying capacity. It will be capable of flying at a height of 15,000 feet with a range of 500 kilometers. It will also be able to carry 24 fully equipped military personnel. Of a VVIP role, it can carry 18 persons. So this is the helicopter design which will be unveiled. It can be used for counterinsurgency operations, casualty evacuation, search and rescue operations. So these functions would be suitable for it. So this multi-role helicopter will be able to replace the Mi-17, which is a Russian-built helicopter which is presently in use. So this is there. Then another is Advanced Light Helicopter Dhruv, which HAL has already built. It is a 5.5-ton helicopter. So this is operationally large numbers in the forces presently. Also it has a light combat helicopter and light utility helicopter under development. But even with Advanced Light Helicopter, there have been cases of crashes. So there have been 9 crashes in 9 years of the Dhruv helicopter. That is also a concern. Also, it had been exported to Ecuador, but Ecuador also there was seen that there were crashes because of these Dhruv helicopters, which always was not because of the engine fault or the helicopter's fault. There were other reasons too for the crashes, but Ecuador stopped the deal short. It did not taken, or it did not buy the further helicopters, Dhruv helicopters, for which the contract had been signed. So that was also a setback. So this is how the Dhruv helicopter has been built also. It is based on Eurocopter. So this was Eurocopter's first license agreement for technology transfer. So this was the design. So it has been designed by Germany. This is BK117 fighter engine design. So it has been through cooperation of so many countries, technologies that can be seen here. 29 companies in 9 countries across 4 continents have been involved with the development, license production or supply of components or munitions for the advanced light helicopter Dhruv. So that is there. Then this is regarding the Ecuador deal also, and this is the details about it. 5.5 ton multi-mission helicopter. Then the next news item is Naxals possess lethal edge in using IEDs. So this was a recent report which had come forth, in which it was seen that IEDs, in improvised explosive devices. So these are bombs. What is an improvised explosive device? Also the definition you can see. So it is assembled. It can be assembled at an individual level too, or by an organization, against the laws of the country in which it is done, and it can use conventional and unconventional methods and develop ammunition, explosives with criminal anti-national intention, and they are used as such. These are improvised explosive devices. So these have been lethal majorly by the Naxalite groups. So it shows that Naxalites have developed huge amount of such IEDs and are using them against the forces. Even the fatalities because of them has been quite high. So this is the report which has come from the National Bomb Data Center. So this is the Federal Counter-Terror Force, NSG's body. So under it, this body has said that 26% increase in IED blast incidents were witnessed in 2016 when compared to last year. So this has been based on the post-blast investigation which this organization does. So 83% of all IEDs were triggered by Naxals, and they were highly explosive, and 112 deaths due to these explosive blasts were reported. So this maximum of 73 such deaths came from left-wing extremist region. So that is of concern. And 14 from Northeast, 5 from Jammu and Kashmir, 20 from rest of the country. So this is there. Also 65% of total fatalities were from this left-wing extremism hit states. So that shows how left-wing extremism is rigorously using these improvised explosive devices against the forces and the civilians. Then the next news item is North Korea test fires ballistic missile. So North Korea, which is called a rogue state by USA too, so it has fired a ballistic missile into the sea. So this has been the first such test since US President Donald Trump has been elected, and he has been has been taken office in White House. So this test of this missile which has been done, it is said to be Musudan class missile. So it is an intermediate range missile. North Korea has earlier said that it will also use intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM. So these intercontinental ballistic missile will have a much larger range which can reach up to USA. So this is also a concern here. So you can see they are threatening USA. So this is North Korea here. This is China, this is North Korea, South Korea in this region. So North Korea has all these missiles which are in operation too. So this was Musudan missile which was presently test fired. So this Taepodong 2 is the intercontinental ballistic missile which you can see can target Alaska, which is part of USA. So this is what is a threat that it has threatened that it would test this ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile. So North Korea has a rift with South Korea. It's a communist country with a dictatorial regime presently. The conditions of the people are miserable here. It has threatened to use force and missiles against countries. So South Korea is immediately threatened by it. It is a historical rift between the two. It's promoting communism, and that was a capitalist country as such, which has been formed a close ally of USA. So USA has also promoted one idea of installing THAAD, Terminal High Altitude Defense System, in South Korea. So to tackle the North Korean missiles. So this THAAD system, it was also speculated this may be not to the liking of China, that a US system, air defense system, be put in this region. So this high altitude defense system, this is working how an incoming threat coming in will be destroyed by this interceptor missile here. So this is the THAAD system. So the radars can detect the incoming threat and then target is identified and engaged using this interceptor which is fired here. So this special feature of this THAAD system is that this destruction is done using kinetic energy. So interceptor uses kinetic energy, means this clash will result in destruction through the heat developed here in the form of kinetic energy, eventually resulting in heat and destruction of this incoming missile. So this is there. Then the next news item is US denies visa to Pakistan Senate's deputy chairman. So Pakistan Senate means Pakistan's upper house. So the deputy chairman here was planning to have a visit to New York, the UN headquarters, for a meeting of the Inter-Parliamentary Union. But he has been denied visa by US. He is a leader of one of the largest Islamic parties in the country. So this is a huge setback for Pakistan. The next news item is Commerce Department special arm may drive foreign trade policy. So this is a report which has been submitted by Frost and Sullivan. So this is a global consultancy firm which had been engaged for preparing a report by the Ministry of Commerce on how foreign trade policy should be put into effect. So this has given its recommendations to the Ministry of Commerce. So this has been a report just submitted in December 2016, under which it says that the Directorate General of Foreign Trade, DGFT, should be transformed as an apex body for all trade promotion activities for the country. So this is a recommendation. So it says DGFT 3 should be formed. So DGFT pre and post liberalization are the earlier two versions, and now a third version should be there which will be promoting trade activities as such. So this is to improve the ease of doing business in ranking of the country too. So currently India is ranked 130 out of 190 countries, and in terms of trading across borders, ranking is much poor at 143. So these reforms are required, modifications are required to improve our ranking, to ease of doing business to be brought in. So that's why these provisions would be taken. So this is regarding DGFT2. So it's a governmental organization responsible for formulation of EXIM, export-import guidelines and principles for Indian importers and exporters. Before 1991, it was known as Chief Controller of Imports and Exports. So after liberalization, LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization, the DGFT functions were changed. Earlier it was licensing era which was there in place. So then the DGFT changed. Now it says a third version should be brought in which will be further facilitating trade. So that is the recommendation put forth. Another recommendation is that the foreign trade presently strategy and policy is currently piloted by Prime Minister's Office and External Affairs Minister. It says that the future trade policy model should have Commerce Department at the apex. So that it should be supported by External Affairs and Finance Ministry. So this is how the future trade policy should be. So it is appointed by Commerce Department, and this is the suggestion which it has given. Another suggestion is that the Indian trade services should be made stronger. It should be given a higher profile. Presently, it is seen that IS, Indian Foreign Services, and IRS officers dominate and have a superior role over ITS cadres. So this also has to be rectified. So here professionals should be brought in as well. Also, it says that a dedicated ministerial arm should be there under Department of Commerce to deal with trade-related policy inputs and their formulation and their rollout. So how trade policy should be formulated should be completely under the Ministry of Defense, under Department of Commerce, under Ministry of Commerce, under Department of Commerce, and it should be on a digital platform as well. So all policy inputs, formulation, rollout work should be handled by digital platforms. So this is the recommendation put forth. The next news item is Center plans to invest 2,200 crore in electronic technology startups. So this is Electronics Development Fund which has been established by the government. So it is called a fund of funds. Means this will be a fund which will be funding other funds. So there will be daughter funds coming out from this, and that will work with venture capitalists to create funds. So that means for any new startup which will be initiated, 10% funding would be provided from this. So that will be a daughter fund developed, 10% funding, and remaining 90% funding should come from venture capitalists. So that is what it says, that 10% capital requirement will be provided from the government through this Electronics Development Fund. So what happens is that once startups are endorsed by the government as well, then venture capitalists also come in and they bring in capital. They have faith in the startup which is being promoted, and that will help in multiplying the effect. So that means if government puts in 10%, means even it has planned that investment of about 2,200 crores would be done by 2019. So if this will be 10%, so remaining 22,000 crore will be mobilized by themselves through by the startup. So that would be facilitated. So that is the idea which is put forth. It says the fund's objective is to develop the electronic system design and manufacturing sector in such a way that there will be net zero imports by 2020. So it will also bring in a lot of intellectual property and design and development within the country. So that is the objective of this Electronics Development Fund, right? So this will be for startups, means new technologies in areas of electronics, nano electronics and IT will be promoted by the government. So the terms which are used like venture capitalist. So what is a venture capitalist? Venture capitalist is an investor which invests money which is pooled from various people, and it invests in a way that profits can be coming forth. So, and there is another term to angel investor. So angel investor is a term for individuals. So individuals who invest their own money in companies are called angel investors, and this is venture capitalist is pooling of resources and investing. So he is an investor as such, having a corporate function. So this is regarding the Electronics Development Fund 2, zero imports in electronic products in the target. So daughter funds will be supporting early stage startups. So both angel funds and venture funds would be supported through this Electronics Development Fund. So it will promote innovation, research and development, supports acquisition of foreign companies and technologies too, also creates a resource pool of intellectual property within the country. Then the next news item is second public sector board recapitalization, public sector banks recapitalization plan on the anvil. So public sector banks recapitalization was put forth under the 2015 Indradhanush roadmap, and now again Indradhanush 2 would be coming forth. So this is the government's plan. So more recapitalization would be provided to the public sector banks. So this is to make sure that they comply with the Basel III norms. So what is Basel III norms and what was this Indradhanush roadmap? We'll look at it. Another point which is put forth is that there is an asset quality review which is being done by RBI. So once that is completed, which is likely that it will be done by March end, then this Indradhanush 2 will be unveiled. So this policy, this asset quality review is to review these NPAs, non-performing assets, and how these banks should recognize top defaulting accounts as non-performing assets, and then adequate provisions should be made for them. So asset quality review is essential. That is highlighted. This is regarding the first Indradhanush 7-point agenda. So as Indradhanush, rainbow has 7 colors. These are 7 points which were highlighted for banking reforms. So one was regarding appointments. There were many posts vacant which had to be filled, so that appointments were done in public sector banks. Then appointments of top posts. Then there was a banks board bureau established to monitor PSU banks functioning on key performance indicators. Even appointments related aspects were taken care of by this banks board bureau. This was established with the former Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Vinod Rai, as its chair. Then capitalizations. Presently the news is about recapitalization. So capitalization was provided. 25,000 crore would be put into PSUs. So that was the capitalization provided to PSU banks by the government. Then de-stressing means speedy project approval should be provided, means whatever projects are being likely to be funded by the banks, loans being provided by the banks, they should be approved speedily. So that is de-stressing emphasized on. Empowerment means giving flexibility to banks that they can function with flexibility, they can recruit their own staff. So such flexibility is being given. Performance evaluation, how performance evaluation would take place was also remodified. Reforms, so that no political interference takes place in day-to-day functioning of the banks, was also endorsed. So this was the Indradhanush plan which was put into effect. So this was the same thing. How it was put into effect is highlighted here, that vacancies were filled, banks board bureau was appointed, but then its role is limited. So it was not like a reforming and having all powers to bring in or modify the entire public sector banking system in the country. So it has limited role as such. So not much effective functioning is possible through that. So capitalization was done, of course. This is highlighted here. Then this is regarding the Basel III norms to which banks should comply. So Basel III norms are the third version of Basel Accord. Basel 1 and Basel 2 were the earlier ones. So Basel 3, these all are Basel are put forth, agreed upon by Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. So this is based in Basel. So Basel is a place in Switzerland. So these were scheduled, Basel 3 norms were scheduled to be introduced in 2010-11. But then they were introduced from 2013. It has been extended. Now finally it has been extended till March 2019. So this has been because of financial crisis of 2007-8 too. It was seen that deficiencies in financial regulation are there which needs to be addressed, and that is why these norms have been modified. So you can see. So under Basel III, the bank's capital requirements will increase, means capital, how much amount of fund capital it has with itself, that would increase. It should keep in various conditions. And then the bank's liquidity would increase. So liquidity means an asset. It's called liquid when it is easily used for trade, like, cash can be easily converted into cash. Cash itself is a liquid asset plus gold. So easily it can be converted into cash and can be used for a transaction. So those are called liquid assets. Property, for example, is not a liquid asset because first we'll have to find buyers, sell it, and then you will get the cash which can be used for the transaction. So that is called bank liquidity. So liquidity is to be increased, plus also bank leverage has to be decreased. So leverage means using debt for furthering investments and getting profits. So that bank leverage. So debt means liability which the banks have. So the accounts which they have with themselves. So those are liabilities for them. They have to pay back to the holders of those accounts. So bank leverage should be decreased is another provision under the Basel III norms. So it is an extension of the Basel II. So enhanced provisions are here with respect to minimum capital requirement to enhanced provisions, liquidity requirements brought in. Even supervisory review process has been enhanced. So risk management will be taking place better. Then disclosure and market discipline has also been enhanced. So these are the capital requirement comparisons to under Basel 2 and 3. You should know at least this first figure, that is minimum ratio of total capital to risk weighted assets. So that for Basel 2 was 8%, under Basel 3 it is 11.5%. So based on risk weighted assets means the risky assets are equivalently weighted, and then based on that how much risk weighted assets you have, capital requirement should be there. So that is the ratio here in percentage form that has been increased. Then the next news item is study links gut bacteria to Alzheimer's. So this was a study done on mice in which it was seen that mice suffering for Alzheimer's disease. So Alzheimer's disease is a common form of dementia in which the loss of memory is generally seen. So this has also this disease is seen by the increased amount of beta amyloid plaques in the brain. So it is seen that mice who are suffering from Alzheimer's disease, they have different composition of intestinal bacteria. So when it was seen that mice which have smaller amount of beta amyloid plaques had the smaller amount of these gut bacteria too. So there's a linkage, direct causal linkage between the two has been formed now. So this will help in finding new ways of treatment and prevention of such neurological diseases, neurodegenerative diseases as they are called. So this is regarding that. Then the next news item is comet 45P will pass by the Earth. So this is a comet which will pass by the Earth. It's a short period comet. So comets revolve around the sun. They have orbit around the sun, and they have a nucleus and a tail as such too. So this comet will be making a close orbit to the Earth. So that is, it will coming close to the Earth. So that gives opportunity to scientists to study about these comets. What is it composed of? If there is water, methane within it, the gases, dust and ice particles which are released can also be investigated further, and understanding of how these comets were formed. So these comets were formed from the initial when the initial universe was formed, the solar system as such was formed, the sun formed. So that is, its origin can be better understood, and the young sun of the solar system, how was it formed, and that can be better understood to study of these comets. So comets are specifically known by their distinctive tail which they make. So this tail is also produced by a phenomena called outgassing. So in the comets, the nucleus of the comet is basically, it comprises of ice, dust and gases. So when they are close to the sun, the solar winds effect on them and the sunlight pressure on them, this results in outgassing. So in this process, these particles are brought out from the comet's nucleus and they come up as a tail of the comet. So that is the comet's tail which is formed. So these comets will be seen close to the Earth presently, passing by. The next news item is the hunt for oscillons begins. So this is a provision put forth, an idea of oscillons. So what are these oscillons? Theoretical physicists have calculated the precise frequency and specific gravitational wave signals which emerged seconds after the Big Bang, within fractions of a second after the Big Bang. So when Big Bang took place, what was Big Bang is a compressed, very compressed particle, it is believed, was exploded, and in this explosion the particles which were smaller particles which were brought out accelerated, and this is how all the parts of the universe have been formed. So universe was formed through Big Bang. So in this Big Bang, when Big Bang took place, there were gravitational wave signals that emerged. So the frequency and specific gravitational wave signals have to be calculated. So these have been calculated by these scientists theoretically. So the understanding of this will help understand the origin of the universe as well. So that is what is believed. These gravitational waves were proposed by Albert Einstein. So he had predicted them in 1916. So after 1916, it was in 2016 that the existence of these gravitational waves were confirmed by the LIGO experiment. So this shows the gravitational waves do exist, and these gravitational waves travel through the universe. It is said that they shrink and stretch the space-time continuum. So they distort the geometry of space itself. So whenever masses are accelerating, gravitational waves are emitted. So that is known, but the waves are very difficult to be picked up, recognized. So the detection of these waves take place only when the source of these waves is quite huge. So for normal masses accelerating, it does not happen, but for masses like two massive black holes, when they merge, the gravitational waves produced by this have been detected. So that was the LIGO experiment. It detected these gravitational waves through when two massive black holes have merged. So these gravitational waves are known. So now the gravitational waves which emerged at the time of Big Bang have to be understood. So these have been studied by a group of scientists. These are theoretical physicists from University of Basel in Switzerland. So they are researching on this, the frequency of the range of gravitational waves emitted after the Big Bang. So how do they look like? In which area do they emerge? So understanding that is what they are targeting. So they say that at the time when universe was cramped, it can be said that this was a hypothetical particle which is called inflaton. So this inflatons, then at the Big Bang, inflatons were formed, and they underwent intense fluctuations. So sometimes they formed clumps and oscillated in that region. So these oscillations, regions in which they oscillated, are called oscillons. So these oscillons are the regions from where strong gravitational waves would have been blasted out. So these gravitational waves will still be able to detect them today. So this is what is believed. So oscillons are no longer there. They have ceased to exist, but the gravitational waves they have emitted are still moving, and they can be looked at. They can be detected, studied to better understand the universe. So that is the theoretical research which is going on to understand the formation of the universe. So this is the basis of it, the Big Bang theory, origin of the universe theory. Right? So it believes that Big Bang took place and the universe is still expanding. The particles which exploded, they're still moving away. So that is the Big Bang theory. And these gravitational waves you can see. So these are like ripples or oscillations in space-time. So they pass through space-time. They travel at the speed of light, and their strength weakens as the distance traveled by them increases. So it's said by the time the waves reach Earth, they are weak and difficult to detect. That is why it has been difficult. Then this is regarding the LIGO experiment too, which was predicted by Einstein, that when two black holes merge, gravitational waves are emitted. So these have been detected by LIGO. These two LIGO detectors have been placed in USA. The third one they're planning to have in India, because they have to be at different locations. So India is the best place geographically to have them. So it's at the right distance from the US observatories. So then this will give India access to this technology too, plus future precision engineering industries can also be benefited through it. So this is the LIGO. Light bounces back and is received back. So based on any distortion here, it is understood that it was a gravitational wave which passed and the detection is registered. The next news item is informational cascades in honeybee swarming behavior. So this is a study done on honeybee swarming behavior and how communication pattern is there in these honeybees. So two aspects have been highlighted, that they have a distributed decision making process and an informational cascade process through which they communicate. So these are researchers who have studied these honeybees behavior. So honeybee scientific name is Apis mellifera. So the example which is given of this honeybee behavior is that, for example, they want to abandon an old hive and find a new hive as such. So a group of honeybees would go out and find new sites, and then they would come back with this information and communicate with the other honeybees through a waggle dance. So then the rest of the honeybees would respond independently, like they would vote. So they would also respond with this waggle dance without any social pressure. They would independently have this voting done. So once the minimum required positive votes come in, the bees decide that decision is made that the new hive would be gone ahead to. So this is done without a unanimous endorsement as such. So this is how decision making takes place. So the communication control system which is used is shown here. The central system and distributed decision making. So you can see if control is central and communication is also centralized, this is the pyramid form which you get. If control is centralized, so there is a client server system and the communication is distributed. So control is centralized, everybody would be communicated to, but the control is centralized. So that is the communication distributed. When control is distributed and communication is central, so this is the virtual network system. Communication is centralized, but the control is distributed. Everybody has control, but communication is central authority controls it. And then this is the complete distributed system. So control is also distributed and communication is also distributed. So this is the ecosystem model which the honeybee are functioning in. So that is there. Then the information cascade which is put forth. So this cascade is a hierarchical structure in which different parts behave not just in response to a small local event, but also to the larger scale of events. So that is cascade behavior. Information cascade means not just the information which is there presently in front of you, but there's a larger event which is defining your behavior. So that is called a cascade. So this example is given of Facebook. Like there is a particular post in Facebook which you are referring to, not because of that's the information in that post, but the list of posts which you are having in your entire newsfeed and is filled with that particular issue or something. So that makes you go for that particular post. So that is the local event is not, the local particular post is not only deciding your behavior, but the overall larger scale of events is deciding. So that is called information cascade. So that is what is also seen in honeybee behavior. So these social interactions are being understood, even human social interactions understood by this behavioral study. Then the next news item is IIT Madras, role of mushroom spores in atmospheric bioaerosol studied. So this is mushroom spores. So they go out into the atmosphere and become bioaerosols. So they have been studied in IIT Madras campus. The IIT Madras campus itself is, they say, is an ecological island. It is a representative of tropical dry evergreen biome. So it's a huge campus, over 678 acres. It's rich in vegetation. So here a study has been done of these mushroom spores. They say mushrooms grow in monsoon season when the temperature and relative humidity is favorable. And then the spores are released into the air. So these spores, of course, result in allergy in humans. They also damage plants and animals' health, but they have an impact on regional climate also because they act as nuclei. So these spores, like fungal spores, they act as nuclei. So vapors can condense on them and water droplets can be formed. So they can have an effect on formation of clouds as such too. So that is being studied presently by these IIT Madras researchers, that how these mushroom spores affect the become atmospheric bioaerosols and what role do they play in them. So that is it. These are the news items. Thank you.